Hi everyone, I'm Arthur Torres, a full stack web developer, and this is my Module 1 capstone project video presentation. So I built a website about Ferrari racing events in order for the user to get access to the latest race events information and the like, as well as purchase exclusive events tickets and dive into the F1 world. This website is available on both desktop and mobile devices on your preferred web browser. So in this section of the presentation, I will talk briefly about the directories and file structure of the project. On the left side of our VS Code is Explorer, and here we have files on the root part of the folder. Here we have the README file, all the package, JSONs, and the files required for the linters to execute and to work, as well as the main HTML markup documents about and the index, aka the homepage of the website. Then we have the README folder, the README SRC folder, which will hold all the images that will be presented on the README file, as well as the node modules, all the dependencies for the linters to work, and the GitHub, which is going to hold the workflows and all the linters properties and values. Then within the SRC folder, we have assets, and within our assets folder, we'll have 4 main folders that will hold the JavaScript, all the media, and the CSS style sheets. First, we have the DB folder, which will hold all the database-like objects which hold all the information that will be later be injected on the markup of the website. Then we have the folder JavaScript, which will have 3 folders within it. Once is the work for one of them is going to be the markup injector functions, all the functions that will take all the data from the database-like inside the DB folder and inject it into the HTML markup on the web browser. Later, we'll have the folder markup template, which are functions as well that the work of these functions are to create dynamically this markup, this HTML markup that will be later injected with the markup injectors functions within this folder right here. Then latest, we have the UX folder, which will leave all the files related to the UX created with JavaScript. In this case, we have the toggle mobile menu, working with events in order for the user when he clicks the mobile menu to open and close. Later, we have the media folder, which inside is going to have all the folders related to images and or videos of the website, separated, of course, in different kind of images and sections related to each of the web pages. Later, last but not least, we're going to have the styles folder that is going to be modularized in different, in separated folders within it. We have the abstracts folder that is going to be in charge of all the variables and the like. Then the base, which is going to hold all the base styles, such as the body, whatever the properties and values is going to hold the body, then setting user preference settings in media queries and the like. Also, the files style sheets, such as normalize and stuff, is going to leave all in the base folder. Later, we have the components, which is going to hold the UI and UX styles, such as buttons and toggles and navbars and stuff. Later, we have the config. Within config, we have breakpoints, and these breakpoints, aka the media queries, are going to be the tiny house, the folder for these files that are going to be the media queries of each of the sections of the website. Later, we have the layout, which is going to hold all the style sheets that can be used in many different web pages of the same website, such as the footer, hero section, and navbar. All the style sheets all the sections of a website that is going to have the same styles live on the layout. Later, we have pages, which is going to have the main style sheets of the different styles that are going to have each of the web pages. In this case, the homepage, index, and the about page. And last is going to be the vendor extensions that is going to hold all the style sheets, in this case only once, that is going to override all the styles that come by default with frameworks such as Bootstrap, for example. The style sheet is going to override classes, properties and values from different classes and class selectors. And later we have the about CSS and the index CSS that both of the files are going to import all the necessary and the required style sheets from every single one of these abstracted folders that they're going to be necessary to run and to style the whole web page. Now, as for the short demo of the app, I'm going to show you, well, the website in this case, and I'm going to speak a little bit about the project requirements. So one of the things that we needed to follow are the design guidelines by designed by Cindy Shin that is in Behance. I'll leave the link below. We needed to include the same colors, the same typography, font face, size, and weight, and the layout. The layout has to be the same in composition and the space between the elements. then you can compare the website with the link provided below in the video. The page and the website, as you can see, should look almost identical to the design. Both the navbars, the hero section, activity section, and the feature speakers in the Behance design, when in this case, given the fact that we changed the content of the website, is going to be called upcoming races. The partner section, where all the logos of the partners live, the state have. Then when we were supposed to link the web page home, aka the index, to the about page. So the navbar of the home page should have a link to the about page. Also, maintaining the same structure, the same layout, colors, and typography, as well as an additional third navbar here that takes home or to other sides of the pages on the same website. Hero section, and there is talks about the logo of the website. And in this case, of course, given the fact that we changed again the content of the web page, it just changes the images and the content itself. Now back to the homepage. It was important, and it is important when we're talking about user experience, since the website needs to be adapted for the user device, and thus make the layout fit nicely and on any viewport. So as an example, we'll take this. I will take you here. And as you can see, there's a difference between the desktop version and when it comes to mobile. For example, the navbar is different on smaller devices, such as the iPhone 13 Pro in this example, making it more appealing and clean for the eye, and also for touch experiences, such as another of the project requirements, the navbar mobile menu hamburger button. When we click, it opens the mobile menu. That there's a link that takes you to the about page. And when it's clicked the X button, it just closes the navbar itself. We can see also how the responsiveness work when we're talking about another device, that it's about 668 width and 1024 in height, such as the iPad mini in this example. And also it will take the mobile version of the website. Now, when it comes to media queries or breakpoints, when we're talking about user experience, how to change the website or the web page according to the device. In this case, we're talking about a device that is over 1,000 pixels. We can say that it's some kind of a big tablet, or maybe a desktop and a notebook, but also how the media queries work. So pretty much we have only one breakpoint in this project. We have 668 pixels. That will be the maximum, and that's going to kick in once the viewport gets to that breakpoint, that number of breakpoints. So say, in this case, this is the desktop version, and we're going to shrink it until it gets to 768 pixels. Once it gets to that viewport size, is the mobile version is going to kick in, and we're going to have changed the design and the layout as required on the design. Other of the requirements of the website was to dynamically create, or as I used to say, I inject markup on in this case, on the upcoming races, that on the design is the feature speakers. And every single one of these elements, say the picture with the text and everything that is within one element as a parent, as a container, needed to be injected, needed to be dynamically added on these upcoming races with JavaScript. And all this information, all the pictures, the SRC path for the pictures, and the text and the dates and the paragraphs of each of these cards, of each of these elements, needed to come from an object. In this case, a database like that we will create with JavaScript, a big object that is going to have small objects within it with key value pairs containing the information that we need to retrieve with a loop and inject it one by one with JavaScript. In addition, the activity section was dynamically created as well as the partner section. Now, back on VS Code, we're going to talk about HTML best practices. So in this code, I'm going to be showing you for line 24, what is the structure that I followed and the best practice that I followed with as well HTML5 semantics tags on the project. So there is many benefits from it. So HTML5 brought us what is called the semantic tags. It means that, for example, as an example for semantic tags, we can say the header and the navbars and, for example, sections and articles. The benefits of these HTML5 semantic tags, it helps search engines, it helps SEO, it helps accessibility tools to understand better the content of the website. As well, using HTML and semantic tags, the code can be clear on what is being shown, and helps in the case of for developers. It helps future developers to have a better experience navigating the code. Also, good practices when it comes to HTML is always trying to have all the elements, all the classes, all the ID values, all the attributes in lowercase, trying to format the codes. Nowadays, we have a lot of, there's tools that we can download here on the extensions to help us format our code. But pretty much is to have our code clean on white lines, on probably if there's too much of what is the name? Sorry. Indentation also is very important. And also it's very important to maintain a hierarchy when it comes to, so separate elements by hierarchy. For example, in this case, header is the parent of navbar because navbar is within header, but also it's important to say that why the best practice is to keep the navbar inside, so indented inside the header. So we know as a developer that in this case, navbar is the children and both also the parent of the UL element, as well as the UL element is the children of navbar, sorry, and also is the parent of the Li element, and so forth and so on. So as you can see, for us, the developers, and maybe some curious user, it is very important. And also, of course, for SEO, search engines, and accessibility tools such as screen readers, it's important that we keep our HTML code or markup well formatted, clean, use lower cases, and use the new HTML5 semantic tags. Now, on the CSS side of the project, we're going to talk about CSS box model. So CSS box model is pretty much like a box. It's like a container that every single HTML element has. For example, a section, an H1 for headings, a Li element, an anchor tag. Every element in the HTML world has its own, this box, this container that holds the element. And a CSS box model it consists of margins, borders, padding, and this content itself. So when we're talking about this, the benefits of the CSS box model is that it helps us sort of like separate elements on the web page by this. So for example, the margin and the padding are sort of like invisible spaces that we can give to this element with the box model. So the benefit is that with the box model, we can separate elements and create a nice layout by separating the elements on the website. So as an example, this is the code I wrote for the web page for the footer. That is the footer content wrapper. So it's a footer, is the wrapper of the many elements on the footer on the project, and it has a padding of 1 rem on the top, 2 rem on the right, 1 rem at the bottom, and 1 rem on the left. And there is a margin. So margin on top and bottom, and on the sides, so left and right, will be automatic. In this example, we don't have a border. However, I can show you a live action, in this case here, that you can see with the DevTools how this looks. For example, we're going to point to the footer here. So this will be our footer content wrapper. That's our class selector that I gave to the element, to the div element. So as you can see here, this whole thing here will be the content, all this. Then the green will be the padding, and the orange will be our margin. So will be the usage of box model. As I said before, there's no border, but we can add some, 2px solid, some border, and you can see here. So we have the so in the box models, you have the margin, which is the outside. So it's between the other elements in this case, and within the border. Then we have the border that is between the margin and the padding. And then we have the content that is between, well, the content itself and the padding. And this will be the box model. And as I said before, the benefit is that in this case, as you can see, there shouldn't be border, but we put some border here. If we remove it, we have padding and margin, the content itself, and it's separated with this empty because there's no color here, because the margin and padding doesn't have no color to set, and therefore they are like transparent, they're like invincible. And therefore the benefit is that we can separate and give some space between the elements, as well as everything has its paddings and its margins. For example, here the text or the card itself have some margin on the top, have some padding on the top. And what else? For example, these cards have some padding. The activity name, it's on its own, has some padding, and that will be CSS box model. Back to VS Code. Now we're going to talk about events, event listeners in JavaScript. So JavaScript is an event-based coding language, which means that we can have executable code only when there is an event, when an event is fired, or when there is an event is being triggered. In this case, by the user, meaning that, or it could be by the window as well. So meaning that the user events, such as clicks, keys, keystrokes, also hovers, and the like, and much more events, can execute a specific code or functions in our scripts, right? So as for example, I have this small script here that what it does is will toggle the mobile menu on small devices where the mobile menu is present. And whenever you click the hamburger button, it's gonna trigger, it's gonna fire that event. That click event will be the trigger that is gonna execute the code. In this case, we have defined a function that is gonna query all of the elements with the same data attribute. In this case, toggle mobile menu btn, which is going to be the hamburger button and the X button. Only those two. We're gonna declare a function that is gonna grab that container that is our mobile menu, the whole mobile menu, and when the function is executed by the event listener on below, it's gonna toggle the class toggle mobile menu, which is in CSS that has the properties to display none and visibility none, like shown here. So what toggle does is, if it has the class, it will remove it. If it doesn't have it, it will add it. So in line 10, when we have our event, we're going to loop through all of the, aka only two, all of the elements that had the data attribute data toggle mobile menu btn, and it's going to wait and listen for a click. So that event that we pass as a button is going to be attached to the method event listener, sorry, and by the event fire or the trigger click is going to call the function toggle mobile menu, which is going to create, is going to query for the whole number mobile menu again, sorry, and it's going to toggle the function. Now, as an addition, I added the window event listener to for the trigger to load, for the event to load, and call the function as well. Why? Because I found that in some devices, when the website is parsed, the function is being triggered, and the mobile menu, as soon as the website is parsed and load, the mobile menu is open. So when you see the website, as soon as you click on the website, it's open. So what I did as a quick fix was to add an event listener on the window. When the window loads, automatically, of course, it's going to toggle the class, because at the moment it will not have the class. So we will add the class, and thus it will add the display none and the visibility to hidden on the mobile menu element. And that will be it for the events. Now, how to deploy a web page or a website with GitHub pages. So first, we need to open the repo that we want to deploy. In this case, well, it's already deployed, but this is the repo from of this project, of the capstone project for a racing website. And we need to go and navigate to the settings. After the settings, we need to go to the click on pages on the code and automation section on the left side of the screen and sidebar. And there we need to select deploy from a branch. Because also you can have the GitHub action. So we need to select deploy from a branch, and we need to, and finally, we need to select which branch with this deployable list, which branch we want the deployment to come from, right? So we can select from main, which is the default, or we can select from any different branches. In this case, for example, we can say, okay, content mobile first. And then we can click from either select the folders from either the root or the documentation, the docs. And we hit save. It's going to take some time, and then it's going to be deployed. The link of the deployment is going to be ready right here. Now, I want to say something about the benefits of deployment with on different branches. In this case, GitHub give us the option of deploying not only in main, so production code, but also with branches. And it's come really handy because you can be working in a new feature and you want to make sure that your resources, for example, your images, your video, all the resources that have a relative path on your project, you want to make sure once it's deployed, those path actually points to those resources. And so it comes really handy. Deploy your project from a branch that you're working to see if it actually if it's actually download if the browser is downloading that resources that you want, as well as, of course, checking whether everything looks as it should. And also it comes in handy when you want to deploy from the branch, as I said, and also check because once it's deployed, you can open your phone, your tablet, or another device with different screen sizes to check whether your website, your page, it works responsibly, right? So that is one of the things that comes really handy to deploy a project first, just to see and to show to people, but also deploy from branches. It's very, very helpful. Thank you. Now, talking about a good example of pull request title and description, in this case, my projects. Sadly, I think that my pull request title and description could be much better than I've done. 2 days ago, when I created a pull request, it was pointed to me by the latest code reviewer that it could be there could be a better implementation on the title, both the title and the description of my pull request. Before, I used to, write as a title, I used to write the name of the milestone and also the branch, and as well as shown here, a description of all the files and folders that had been added on and had been worked on that particular branch. Also, as a side note, a section note for anything that it could be anything that it could have been changed and that I wanted the reviewer to note, and also a thank you section here. However, I'm gonna put into practice what the code reviewer told me, and for the next pull request on the next projects to come now on the next modules, I'm gonna make sure that the title first makes clear what is being changed. Let's say that I'm gonna be working on a mobile menu. Well, the title is gonna be feature mobile menu, or mobile menu for small devices, right? For mobile devices. And then on the description, very important, what I've learned and what I'm going to implement is to write what are the changes that I've done, why I've done those changes, how I did it, and then probably some screenshot or some code snips that I can add to show the before and the after, or specific pieces of code that that are implemented on the features. Okay, another section of the assessment is to code while explaining the sum of all Fibonacci numbers, sum of all the odd Fibonacci numbers, and coding challenge. So, for instance, I'm going to create a function that is going to be, let's say, some all Fibo odds numbers. Yeah, numbers. It's going to be an arrow function. Okay. Now I'm going to call it. I'm going to call the function down below, and I'm going to say, well, 15. Okay. I'm just going to take the num. as a parameter. Oh, high floating meeting controls. Okay, so to understand a little bit, so the Fibonacci numbers, it starts always with two same numbers. Better put, like, it has two same numbers in the beginning. So all the Fibonacci numbers have the 1 and 1. And once it starts, it keep moving, saying like 1 plus 1 is 2. And the second element, the second number of the Fibonacci number will be 2. And the second and the third one of the Fibonacci number will be, in this case, will be 3, because it's going to be those two, that number 2, plus the previous number, which is going to be 1. And so fourth is going to be 5, because it's going to be the number 3 plus the previous number, which before was, and after the 1 was 2. So 3 plus 2 is 5. So in that case, we have a number that in this case passed as a parameter is 15, and we're going to have only one of those right? Of those ones of the numbers. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 15. So I'm gonna create a variable called current number, which is going to be 1. So the first one of those two ones of the Fibonacci numbers. And then we need to create and assign a value to another variable, which is going to be the previous number, which is going to be, at the beginning, it's going to get 0, initialized to 0. Now we're going to create, in order to grab the number and loop through the number one by one, say 1, 2, 3, up to 15, we need to open a loop. So in this case, we're going to open a while loop that is going to run until the current number, which at the beginning is 1, it is less or equal, in the end it's going to be equal to the number. So it's going to run until current number is 15. So 1 is 15, is equal, is less, no, but it's equal to number. The while loop is going to stop. High floating panel, sorry, there you go. So within the while loop, what we need to check is to check the oddness of every single num that is going through that loop, right? So if we're going to check with a condition, with an if statement, we're going to check if the current number divided with the modulus divided by 2, the remaining of that division has to be different than 0. So it has to be 1 or 2 or 1.5 or 15, etc. So it has to be different than 0. Normally, we could say it's equal to 0 when it's even, but in this case, we need the odd numbers. And what we're going to do, now that I was forgetting, is to initialize an array. So we're going to, in which we're going to hold all the odd numbers. So all odd numbers. That is going to be an array numbers that then we're going to sum them up. So what we're going to do within this while loop, if the current number divided by 2 has and the result of that division is different than 0, so it's not even, it's odd, then what we're going to do is we're going to add to all the numbers, we're going to push to the array all odd numbers. Should I pick a better name? So the current number. And now we need a case that is going to prevent the while loop to be infinite, right? And also we need a way to move forward on the current number, right? And also on the previous number. So what we're going to do, we're going to assign whatever is current number plus whatever is the previous number that at the beginning is 0. And then we're going to assign whatever is in previous number, we're going to assign whatever is current number, which at the beginning is 1, and we're going to subtract the previous number. So if it is 5, previous number, it will be 3 because the current number will be 2. And so what is going to be doing this? It's going to loop through all the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's going to check whether those names, the remnants of the current number divided by 2 is different than 0, and that number is odd. And if it's odd, it's going to be pushed. It's going to populate the all odds numbers. I should have checked better name. All odds numbers. I'm just going to odd number. That will be better. Odd numbers. It's going to populate that array. And in the end, what we're going to do, we're going to return the array, but we're going to return the sum of all of the elements within that array. And by that, we're going to be using the reduce method that is going to take the following parameters. So it's going to take the previous, it's going to take the actual value and the next value, in this case, b. With an arrow function, we're going to say, so a plus b. So why are we returning this? I could have said, instead, I could have declared actually a variable that is 0, and then we're going to add that variable, we're going to sum whatever current number is, and that's we're going to have the number, the sum of all the numbers. However, in one day, we need the sum of odd numbers function to be able to return not the sum of all, but every single number, every single odd number. Then one day we can just say return the array itself with all the odd numbers listed within it. But for the purpose of the function, we are going to, there you go. We're going to read. Okay, so back to the soft skills assessment section. I'm going to point the key elements of why this message to David J. Malan, professor of Harvard University, is a good thank you message and in a professional way. So for instance, there is a friendly opening. It was extremely satisfying to chat with you last Thursday. Then there is a heartful thanks. I have probably thanked you many times, but I wanted to again say thanks. There is a follow-up on the topics discussed that day, back to the fundamentals of CS and much more on the third paragraph. And then there is a brief repetition of the thankful, of the thanks, giving thanks again. And last but not least, a friendly closing. But until then, I hope you have a great weekend. Always grateful, Arthur. And that will be it. Thank you. Okay, so one of the issues I needed to look up while working on the Ferrari racing website, on the project, on the Capstone project, was how to implement a max font size. So I was looking forward to see to find on internet how can I have a font size of a certain amount of pixels, right? Not using static units, but responsive units such as rems and ems, but having it on one size. And when the viewport, when you resize the viewport and you made it bigger, how to make that font size that the size was for mobile devices to become bigger. And so I was thinking, before Googling and before going to Stack Overflow, I was thinking a way, maybe we could use a min max function like we can with other properties. But then, well, I Googled how to implement a min max. Actually, the way I wrote it, it was how to implement a min max font size. And this one popped up on the results. And so the first thing I read how these user had the same sort of like issue or doubt that I had. Then I always check on the green tick to check if the community has accepted this answer as valid, and also the numbers of or thumbs up or the numbers of useful tokens that had received, as well as reading through the whole answer and making sure that it matched with the documentation. And so there was a lot of answers on this one. First, creating media queries after using a main function that after reading this Stack Overflow answer, I got to find that the main function also works on font sizes, and also the clamp, very useful as well. At the end of the day, I went for the media queries. As you can see on the files of my project, I went with 3 media queries. Probably I could have used a better approach, but I went with 3 media queries, making sure that while the viewport got bigger, I reduced the number of viewport width units for the font size. And sadly, I cannot show any examples of my own question in Stack Overflow because I haven't wrote any question just yet. I'm pretty sure I will, but not just yet. I don't have any. Last but not least, thank you so much for taking the time to review this presentation. I hope you very good weekend and happy coding.